My name is Heidi Luerra, and I am the founder and CEO of Raw Artists. What inspired me to start Raw was probably a childhood dream to be a fashion designer, and it kind of turned into a bit of an accident. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be a fashion designer. And I grew up in a small town called Redding, California, population 88,000 people. There wasn't a lot of fashion industry there. 3 months after high school graduation, I moved to Southern California to go to fashion school and kind of pursue that life and career. And within a year, I became inspired by this potential clothing line idea that I had, which was essentially interchangeable trims for tweens. I developed this clothing line where girls could change the trim on their tank top or change the stripe on their track pant. I started pouring my life savings of like $200 into it and started selling it at swap meets, and I found it really difficult. Swap meets were not my demographic. I also had friends that I was making, being new to Southern California, that were in the creative arts, whether they were musicians or artists or fashion designers themselves. And they all kind of echoed my same sentiments, that they were there was nowhere to go, no approachable entity. We weren't quite ready for the big leagues, and we weren't wanting to sell at swap meets. So there was nothing in the middle. I wanted the opportunity for myself and my friends, and I was kind of pissed off that there wasn't something available. So I did something about it. I really took the whole quote, be the change you want to see, literally, and I created this showcase. I produced the first showcase and showed my clothing line, and it was a huge hit. It was a complete accident. And there seemed to be just this hunger and need for a creative outlet and a creative space for these people. So I was put in this position where I was now like the purveyor of this hip underground culture of film, fashion, music, art. And I loved it. Through throwing the showcase and directing the showcase, I really discovered that I could be of service to this underground creative art scene. And suddenly I was throwing and growing a showcase to 2,500 people, red carpet celebrity attended in Hollywood. And it was made up of fashion, music, and art. And I realized that I had found my calling, because this was providing not only an opportunity for artists to be seen and heard, but they were getting real success and connections from the opportunity. Artists were being picked up by galleries, selling some of their, very first pieces of work. We also had fashion designers that were picked up by boutiques that were given opportunities for fashion weeks. And several of our musicians from that showcase period are signed and platinum sellers these days. So that showcase was called Project Ethos, and I ran that from the time that I was 20 till the time I was 23. I was partnered with a couple of people that were probably, I was young and naive, that were probably not the best partnership situation. So we decided to go our separate ways, and I went into the corporate world for a little while. I worked for a radio station back when radio was a thing. During the time that I was in corporate, my soul was just shrinking. I came up with these plans for this concept of a showcase that I wanted to call Raw Artists, that was completely down to earth for real artists, bringing real people to art and art to people. I had kind of forgotten about the plans. They were like gathering dust in a drawer somewhere. I was quite, exhausted from my previous experience. And I was having lunch with a friend one day, and I kind of told him about my plans to have this showcase. And he was like, well, I think you should do it. I think you should give it a try. In having that conversation, something kind of woke up in me that I could, kind of start from scratch and do this all over in a different vision. I think that day I went home, pulled out my plans, and decided to go for it. Simultaneously, this was 2008. So that fall, the economy kind of went in the toilet. And as a result, I suddenly had a lot of time on my hands to pursue this new iteration of a showcase. And that is kind of how Raw went from an idea to an action plan. The first Raw showcase took place in downtown Los Angeles, and it was on this swanky hotel / restaurant deck. They had a pool. We had a mermaid swim in the pool. She turned into one of my best friends, actually. It was a small showcase. There was a couple hundred people in attendance, and it was meant to be just kind of more of a networking and a showcase in itself for everyone to kind of show what they could do. It was well received, and Despite my wanting to keep it super down to earth, celebrities did show up. At the first showcase, my now partner / husband attended with a group of our mutual friends, and that was really kind of a turning point in us deciding to perhaps work together. He was actually trying to sell me a website because he was a web developer. In meeting and talking more, we decided that instead of having separate ideas, his was to, have arts and crafts type of website where artists can sell their work online. We never did kind of get around to the retail part of it. It ended up morphing into an online/offline platform for artists to showcase their work. So we decided to do showcases in different pockets of Southern California. So we did downtown Los Angeles, we had a showcase in Long Beach, we had a showcase in Orange County, and then I think in Santa Monica. And we decided we wanted to kind of try our hand in San Diego and San Francisco and see how that went. And it was so well received in those locations that I kind of had this dream and thought that we might take it across the country. I wanted to do it all in one swoop, which was, looking back, very ambitious, but I was young. I think I was 24 at the time, so I had the energy, I had the drive to do it. So I built this plan to essentially hire people from the internet all over the United States, have them come to Southern California and train with us and learn how to produce these showcases, and then go back to their respective communities and do so. We decided to put together a trip that we called Raw Across America. And Raw Across America was set to be a 3-week trip in the middle of the summer that consisted of myself and Matt and some of our executive team to go across country and kind of make sure that, the finishing touches were on all these showcases before we launched on a national level. Our plan was to raise sponsorship dollars to go on the trip, and it did not happen. At the time, there was a gentleman who worked in the same building. One day in passing, he said to me, he was like, "Hey, Heidi, aren't you supposed to be on the road like a long time ago, launching Raw across, the nation?" And I was like, "Yeah, we are, but we couldn't raise the money in time, so we don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna shift some things around." He was like, "Well, why don't you come to my office and pitch me? Maybe my company's interested in sponsoring this." And I was like, "Really?" So I got a pitch together as quickly as I could, and I pitched him 2 days later. He is really the reason we were able to do this. He gave us the money. We ended up launching in 17 cities in February of 2011. Yeah. There's been several famous names that have come through. We don't like to take any credit for their, artistic successful journey, because we're just, a stop on their way, and they certainly have been the ones to put in their work. But there's been some famous people that have come through Raw. Tones and I, Vinny Etienne, Coral Castillo, Dom Streeter, Project Runway, Scent Rock, Thrashbird, Jacob Jonas, The Company, Bonnie McIntosh, Ben Shelton, Campbell LaPun, just to name a few. The operation was becoming larger and larger, and in some of our locations, some of our previous directors weren't necessarily doing the best job, and we were losing some of our quality control. And that, among many other, operational hazards, I decided to make the decision to bring a lot of our operations in-house. So we got an office in downtown Los Angeles, and we hired, I think when we started, about 12 employees. So it forced me to kind of grow up really quickly. I went from being a creative entrepreneur to someone who was comfortable in a boardroom reviewing P&Ls and EBITDA and things of that nature. We perfected our systems over years and years. We built proprietary technology. We built an app. We started a film festival. We built an agency. We were busy and working crazy hours all the time. And Raw has been something I spent every single day of my life on for the better part of the last decade. We were in 75 cities. We had hosted over 1,500 showcases. We had over 200,000 artists in our network that we had showcased, and even more than that worldwide. And we had over 1 million attendees come to our showcases. So we had grown from a $0 operation at my kitchen table to a multi-million-dollar global company. We never had any investors or any huge corporate sponsors, except for Reg that one time, who gave us that money to go across the country. And by the end of 2019, we felt like we were finally in a good place. We had plenty of experience, arranging an office, working with employees. Our team was, I think, at 55 employees at that point. We had departments and HR, and, we felt like a real grown-up company, and we were kind of moving in that direction. And we were ready to really shine. And 2020 was going to be our year. And then the pandemic struck. The World Health Organization announced the pandemic on March 11th, and then March 12th was our 11th birthday as a company. So we had a champagne celebration plan for our team. We had a very different March 12th in mind, and we were ready to usher in a new season. We were trying some new exciting things with our showcases that were looking really great, and in came this really unexpected twist. I canceled all my meetings that day and the next day, locked myself in the office, and basically tried to figure out how we were going to handle this. The next day, I don't think I slept very much that night. And the next day, I walked into the office and had to tell 55 employees that they had to go home. At the time, everyone thought it was 2 weeks. So we thought it was temporary. And we didn't think it was going to be such a big deal a month from then. So we decided to host what we called the National Arts Drive, and that was a fundraiser for artists of any type. They could be raw artists or not, and basically pop up in their front yard with their art, with their music, with their performance, or on a balcony or out a window or wherever they could. And we developed an interactive map where they could mark their location, and cars could drive by, see the art, witness the performances or whatever they were doing, and donate to them from afar on Venmo. And it was just purely a vehicle, no pun intended, for artists to raise some income in the interim. So that's what we did with our last remaining resources. And then I needed a break physically and mentally. Well, we had gone from March to June with really a ton of unknowns and not knowing what was happening. And then we produced the National Arts Drive in June, and then we kind of dissipated as a team. And that was the last big project that we produced together. There were thousands of artists that participated across the US and Canada and Mexico, and it was really cool to see. That's the last and the biggest show we ever did together. I have always been very proud of us as a team for being able to sustain a for-profit art company with a very altruistic mission in the creative arts in general. Blending the concept of money and mission has made us a disruptor in this space. We've had our fair share of naysayers and haters and people who did not like us, but we marched on and sustained for our mission and what we believed was the right thing to do, and that is to give a voice and a platform to artists. I ultimately feel proud. I feel proud that I've gotten to this place on the other side of a decade. I feel proud that we have created and organized and democratized this community. I feel really grateful to the arts community as a whole for trusting us and sharing their creativity with us for as long as they have, because really they are the lifeblood and, the stars of what we are doing at all times. We might be the platform, but they're the ones standing on it. I think if I had to sum it up, it would be, I'm proud of us, I'm proud of our artists, and I am hopeful for a brighter future. After the world changed in the way that it had, my first and innate reaction to this was that we wanted to pass the torch to our community. Lots of things have changed over the last couple of years, and it seemed like between what we have learned over the course of almost 20 years, what I have learned over the course of 20 years is really valuable information and knowledge. And while my career path might be changing, I didn't want to inhibit the community from continuing to host these showcases and provide a platform. So we launched Platform by Raw Artists, which is a licensing program to allow for just that. And it is a program that consists of not only our technology that we've used and built and rebuilt and tested and retested, but also all of our knowledge base and all of our intellectual property, everything we've learned through trial and error and ups and downs and big challenges and small challenges, all belongs to whomever wants to participate in this program now. Given everything that we've learned and that I've learned over the course of my career, Platform as a licensing program really provides all of that information at a licensee's fingertips and allows them to kind of skip those messy mistakes that I made. They don't have to learn things the hard way. This is all instilled in the program itself and available to them, saving them lots of time and money. The future of independent art, I think, right now to everybody looks like NFTs in the metaverse. And I definitely think those will be tools in the future and for artists. But I don't think that people are ever going to get tired of being live in a venue. I don't think anything can replace the thump of a bass in your chest or a model's heels beating down the runway or like those white hot stage lights. You just really cannot get that through a screen. The same it goes for talking to artists and kind of seeing that glimmer when they talk about their artwork or what they created or why they were inspired. I don't know that you're going to be able to get that same experience over some type of broadcasted event. I think the future is that people will crave the realness and the rawness, if you will, of live experiences. Artists need each other, creatives need each other, they need community, and the world needs creatives.